Hi, I'm Rudalavage from Synergy Electrical Sales. Today I'm going to cover some IT basics for construction professionals. Let's say you're an electrical contractor, engineer, architect, general contractor, and you hear networking come up in a job site meeting. Just want to give you some basics so that you'll be more comfortable with what's being discussed, and also help make your project more successful so you can keep track of what different members of the construction team are doing. So I'm going to cover some basics, simple application. Before I do that, I've learned on job sites, this is a great reference that I've used to really get into details. It's a big book. It's Networking for Dummies by Douglas Lowe. 800 pages. I'm going to cover things quickly, not everything that's in there. All right, so first of all, application. We want to get our two lighting control devices on our building network, and let's say we want to connect them to our PC in a facilities office. Well, to be able to do that, we're going to need a network, and we want to be on the building network. To show you though that IT infrastructure, to keep it simple, I'm going to show you this consumer grade router that I have in my house. Now, there's a difference between a router and a switch. You can look that up and see the differences. For this application, I'm just going to use the word switch, but you can look up the differences because that's most commercial projects. You're just going to hear the word switch. So if we look in here, what's really nice and why I want to show this is that we have some things separated here. We have in yellow where it says internet. That's actually taking us out if we wanted to communicate to different websites, Google, Amazon. That's going to take us out there. And then we have between that and the blue side, these ports is our local area network. Between that, we have our firewall. So this is something that I had trouble picking up when I first learned networking. So in your house or building, that building has one IP address, okay, for that whole facility for your house. Within it, your local area network has other IP addresses. Well, how do they get them? How do they get those addresses? Well, the switch, this particular one, is configured for DHCP, which means when I start plugging my devices into my local area network on this side, what's happening, I'll just plug two in here, is this DHCP protocol is assigning to those devices what their IP addresses are. So it's really nice. It's doing that in there. That's called DHCP. So we have those on our local area network. Each device has something called a MAC address, and that's a network identifier for each device. So this, and most people have these in their house, right? Consumer router. It's an unmanaged switch. An unmanaged switch just means you plug things in, this automatically comes online, gets an IP address, and works. But commercial buildings, large commercial projects, we have a network team that's going to keep track of what's allowed on that network. So the ways that they do it, one is by MAC address. So they can say, I need to have only devices that I know their MAC address I'm going to allow on their network. So when something plugs in, they know that MAC address because you've met with them ahead of time. They know that device, they know it's allowed on their network, and it is approved. If it's a device that you simply plug in that's not approved for the network, generally it's going to put that device into a quarantine setting. So that's the simple structure in how we plug in. We get those IP addresses for, it's that local area network. It's usually a 192.168.1.1 for that. Commercial buildings, something like 10.5.1.1 for those other networks. So that's going to get you set up with the networking basic structure, how it works. Wiring, distance limitation is 328 feet for our Ethernet cable. Things to consider as well. What's nice, if you work in the construction industry, generally the building automation team is already setting up, working on that network. You just need to make sure you follow the protocols so you're allowed on the network. Some things to consider as you do it in the construction project, or specifically, what's the process, first of all, to get these devices approved? Generally, you have to submit spec sheets to allow that device on the network. So that's the first step. After you have that approval, you also want to know how you can access the network to set up your devices. So, for instance, some networks will allow you to connect your personal laptop to it with a password. That can be helpful. They might not allow you to connect everywhere, but that might get you what you need. So that's part of it. Some you have to actually only use their machines. So I have one customer where I have a laptop that they issued, and that's how I connect to it as well. Another question to consider is, am I allowed to connect to the internet over your network? Meaning, when I showed this plugin example, we didn't have that internet connected for our local area network, but if we're allowed to connect our devices to the internet, that's key, at least for setup initially, knowing, can I do really a remote session to connect to my devices to allow them to be managed and set up. So those are the things that you want to look at ahead of time. As always, thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear from you in any comments. Thanks.